Ellie, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining. You were a professional athlete. You're part of the British Cycling Academy for track cycling.
Yeah,
Can you give me a little overview of joining, how long you were there? Talk me through.
yeah. I started cycling through Talent Team, which I think is still a thing now. I'm not sure if it is or if it's scaled down a little bit, but yes, I started through the Talent Team when I was youth, then joined the development program when I was a junior, and then went on to the senior program. So I moved to Manchester when I was 17, the day after I passed my driving test, which was very fortunate. And I lived in Manchester until I stopped in 2020. It's hard to know when I stopped because of COVID. It just all blurs into one. But yeah, so I was there for around 5 or 6 years. Stopped cycling now, and now I'm a mum.
Incredible. So, to someone who might be listening to this and is not really familiar with cycling, what would you say are the pros and cons of being a professional
Yeah.
cyclist?
So I think this is a hard question because I think it completely depends on someone's personality. Because I get asked this quite a lot, and I don't think it's till I've stopped where I've thought, oh, actually, I mean, my partner is a professional cyclist, for example, and we have conversations where I'll be like, I absolutely love this from cycling, and he'll be like, oh God, no, like I hated that, like this. But personally, for me, I love the routine. I love a schedule, and everything was planned. So like, it was planned weeks, months in advance. I mean, even like competitions would be like a year in advance. You're looking forward to like a year or 4 years for the Olympics, 2 years commies, everything like this. I really liked the whole planning of it all. Schedules, training, absolutely love training. Probably love training too much. Travel, you get to travel the world. The lazy part inside me on like planning things like that, like flights and everything, that's all booked for you. Generally being really fit. I think since having a baby, I've taken that for granted because I'm starting from scratch now, and I've never had to start from scratch before. So, like being a professional athlete, you're just looking after yourself 24/7, you're always fit, you can kind of turn your hand to whatever to a certain degree, like you have a certain amount of fitness. And the cons, I guess, you miss out on quite a lot. I guess when I moved to Manchester when I was 17, so I was 17 through to 23. That's quite a lot of it's quite a lot of development as a person, really, like as a
Very
young
formative,
person. So I
yeah.
miss quite a lot of life experiences as such. I mean, I gained huge amounts in one aspect, but then also lost quite a lot, like socializing. I didn't go to uni, didn't do anything like that. Missed quite a lot of family events. Was living away from my family. Just little things like that that you missed out on. I thought that was quite a con. I guess is quite a strict lifestyle, and the pressure, just constant pressure, was a
Yeah.
con for me.
I was going to ask you about pressure because British cycling is quite a strict system. And I imagine there's quite a lot of pressure that comes with that. And you've opened up a little bit on your Instagram about mental health and that it was a big burden for you. So, how did you deal with the pressure of having to perform day in, day out?
I guess I didn't, and that's why. And without that sounding negative, because I don't want it, but it's just honest truth of when people ask me. And I think it's hard to comment on it now because I've been out of the system for a couple of years, and I know that quite a lot's changed. I hope quite a lot has changed. But I don't think I ever did deal with it. And that was whether that was pressure from the program or that was pressure from me. It certainly wasn't pressure from family and like loved ones around me. But I put a lot of pressure on myself and then mix that in with British cycling. Because there's a lot of pressure in British cycling. It's quite strict, like you say. It's quite or was very strict. And we are very successful as a federation. So I think with success comes the pressure. and it's like constant. So it's like training, there's pressure there, there's competitions, there's being selected. That's the pressure I found really hard. The how hard it was to even just be selected, the run up to an event, and then you kind of get that little relief of, okay, I've been selected, and then you get to the event, and then the pressure goes up again. And I think, yeah, maybe that's just something that I didn't deal with. And as an athlete, or generally as a person, I'm quite annoyingly a perfectionist. And I think I just got too drawn into, I guess, just I get into cycling, like everything. I did everything by the book. And then sometimes I just went overboard with that. So for me, I really struggled towards the end with eating. I had quite an unhealthy relationship with that. And then with that, I started getting poorly with the stress of the Olympics coming. And it just kind of went downhill from there, to be honest. So I guess the answer to that question is I didn't deal with the pressure very well whatsoever. And I think that's why I'm in this position now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do hear a lot about eating, especially in cycling. It's so common for people to worry about that and then to manifest into becoming a real problem as well. And you mentioned like the Olympics. You went to the Commonwealth Games, didn't you?
Yeah.
But like, and then the Olympics, I guess, is similar to that. You were part of the Olympic program on British cycling, as far as I'm aware. How is that
Yeah.
Olympic lead up program for that? Because you hear about athletes being like, I worked towards this and it didn't happen. It seems quite toxic as an outsider viewing it.
Yeah, and everyone will have a different opinion, which is why I find it hard to talk about my situation, because maybe there's teammates looking in and being like, well, that's not how I viewed it. But then we're all so different. I mean, the last time I competed on my bike was 2020. I think it was 2020 World Championships on the track. And we were second there. We rode really well. I came away from that competition thinking, okay, the next time I get on a track to race will be the Olympics. And actually, I never got back on the track and raced. And I think sometimes that, like, my whole entire world, which I've trained for, which I moved away for, which I sacrificed everything for, came crashing down within the 6 months. I mean, that was obviously the games were then in 2021 because of the Olympics. But while I was at the World Championships, I was a bit sick, and I'd been sick every other month before then, and I was training fine, competing fine. Just thought maybe nerves, because I did get really nervous racing, and I thought, oh, like coming up to the Olympics, maybe there's just this stress inside of me and this is coming out in a physical kind of way. But then a few months later, my appendix burst. So actually, I think I'd just been dealing with a rumbling appendix throughout that. Yeah. So then so I got my appendix out through COVID. Then the games were postponed. My coach, who I've worked with throughout the whole time I was there, bearing in mind that's such a long time to build up a relationship with someone who literally plans every minute of every day. So that was literally from 17 up until the Olympics, who I completely trusted and had a great relationship with. While I was away, he had left the programme, which was a big shock to us all. And a new coach came on board, didn't really build a relationship with that coach whatsoever. And then, I just never really came back from that, and just mentally really, really struggled. Wasn't in a great place. Was really confused, because ended up going from like incredibly good form at the Worlds and then not even going to the Olympics. Like, it was just so extreme for me. And I felt like I was kind of, it sounds really dramatic, but I felt like I was just drowning a little bit, and everything was like coming on top of me, and people, really important people, were leaving. And ultimately was my birthday, got an email to say I wasn't going to the Olympics. So that was just the hard reality of it, and I didn't really know what to do from there. Like, I had so much anger towards British cycling. I felt really let down, but then also felt really disappointed in myself. And I just think everything just merged into one. And yeah, that was that.
Oh my, yeah. So a few things that stuck out to me just when you were saying that is the relationship you have as an athlete with your coach. Like the way you said it, he planned literally like every
Yeah.
second of every day. Like that's massive, do you know? Because I guess it can be super lonely, especially being like so high up in the sporting system, so elite. Like pretty lonely because you also don't want to show any cracks because you want to be selected. You want to be strong from the outside mentally and physically. So you really are relying on that
Yeah.
person for a trust.
Yeah, and actually when I was thinking about this, I was thinking we put so much into that coach. Like we put so much trust into that coach, and personally for me, I really gelled with that coach. And it took a while, don't get me wrong, and also we butted heads a lot. I'm not saying that, oh, I yeah, no, it was a perfect relationship, because it's not, because there is so many stresses. You are in contact with this person every single day. So it's a lot, and a lot of trust, but then you throw someone else into the mix, like less than 6 months before your biggest goal you've ever had. And suddenly you're expected to trust this person. And I, that wasn't even me coming from like a good place of like, oh, that's okay though, because I'm training well, I'm riding well. I just need to adjust a few things and have a relationship with this new coach. It was, I'm at the bottom. I've been really poorly. I need to get back up here, and I have no relationship with you. So I think there was that pressure as well with coaches coming in. But with other sports or general fitness, I feel as though I guess, a bit like therapy. So a lot of people talk about a therapist. You have to try lots of different therapists and you'll find a one that works for you. And I kind of look at that now as a coach. So, like, I think in other sports, it's a bit different to the British cycling system. You have to have that coach. But in other sports, I think you can bring coaches in that you personally get on with. Um, and I think that's massive, because if you're trusting someone so much, you kind of want to be in control of where that someone comes from or how much that someone knows about you. Because, like you say, it is lonely, and at the end of the day, they are selecting you. So, as much as you don't agree with something, it's like constant battle in your head of, I need to tell them I don't agree and that doesn't suit me, but I also really need to keep them on my side and need them to select me. So then what option do you go down? To improve or to just keep everyone happy? So I find that really hard as well when you look back at it.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've got, if you're anxious about the racing, which I'm sure most of the squad is because it's so high pressured, you've got the performance pressure to actually do well. And yeah, you can't crack. So I'm not surprised that it felt like a massive burden because it sounds like one.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like, I can look back on it now, and we had loads of like sessions on trying to like, like how to connect as a team. And for me, like logistically, I just don't think that you can have that relationship in that team. And that sounds so negative, and everyone is lovely and so, so different. Because let's bear in mind, like, we're putting 6, 7, 8 people together and being told, get on, just, like, have a really good relationship, support each other, be there for each other. But then at the same time, you're fighting for 4 spots. So don't be there too much. And like, you have to pick and choose and go to and say, oh, I'm really struggling with this, because the slightest crack you show, then they're like, okay, she's struggling, so how can I get this spot?
So then you have left cycling now and you spent
Yeah.
your formative years throughout being a teenager dedicating everything to it. So I'll tell you a story. When I was little, like through school, I really wanted to be a wedding planner. That was like the goal. I wanted to be a wedding planner. When I was at uni, I worked
Yeah.
as a wedding planner alongside my degree for a bit. I was just loving it. I got a job as a wedding planner for after uni, so I graduated in 2020. And I was like, this is going to be amazing. And then a global pandemic hit and all the weddings were cancelled. And my dream just disappeared. And for
Yeah.
whatever reason now, I'm not a wedding planner, obviously. And I don't want to be one anymore. But I really had to deal with a lot of like mourning it almost, like mourning my dream. Do you know? Like I really wanted to do that and I needed to like acknowledge those feelings and also being like, I'm not doing it anymore and I don't want to be doing it anymore, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt that I'm not and that I didn't do it. So I can only imagine that like you lived this, you worked towards it, you put everything you had into it, not just for a job, but a lifestyle. You moved, you sacrificed. How did you mourn with it, mourn the dream and deal with that and move on from it into normal life?
I don't think I ever will. Like, I the thing that I find hard, and I don't know whether you found this as well, is I think when you dedicate so much to something, it becomes, or it did for me, became an identity. So, like, everybody through school knew me as Ellie the cyclist. And then all of my family say, would talk to me about cycling, ask me how I am, ask me how cycling's going, because of course they care. And then everyone is obviously, I have this huge bubble that I've only ever known, I've only ever socialized with cycling people. So, like, I had and still have absolutely no idea who I am without a bike. And, like, I'm not sure if I ever will. Like, I've tried to like push away cycling and said, okay, I'm going to start something new now. And I can't because I still really love the sport and I think I always will. And I think I never really had the ending. I definitely didn't have the ending I dreamed of. And I didn't even get on the track and say, okay, this is the last time I'll be on the track. So I guess now I'm a mum, I don't have as much time to be sad about it, but I definitely still do really miss aspects of that life. Or I always think, oh, but what if? And I just think perhaps I always will do that, will question that, will feel that. But it's just about managing it, I think, now, and just accepting what's happened, and trying to find something else which feels that, like, makes me feel similar.
It's such a process as well. But it's also really exciting because you can suddenly have like endless opportunities to figure it out. And it's hard to figure it out, but it's also exciting. And then you can transfer, I guess, what you've learned. So I imagine that your mental toughness is probably very, very high. Your resilience, I imagine, is super high. Never mind like your actual like physical ability, like just because you've gone through it all, like no one can do like intervals that hard and just be like airy fairy and not able to have mental toughness. So how do you, I guess, where do you see those qualities that you've built up as an athlete in your day-to-day life? Like if your baby's crying, do you know, are you just like, well, you know, I did X amount like on the turbo every day for a week, like this is nothing?
I don't know, because sometimes I'd be like, when Augie's crying, sometimes I'm like, oh, just capacity effort. At least it would be over.
That's true.
Um, but no, well, it didn't stop after. Like, it felt like there was just 2 or 3 years that I've gone through of just absolute crap. Like, couldn't get worse, to be honest. Like, missed the Olympics, stopped racing, didn't know who I was, what I was doing, really struggled. then thankfully have Owen, my partner, who's kind of steered me back into a direction of, come on, there's more to life than cycling, there's more to you. And then we started trying for a baby, which is another dream I've always had. I've always dreamt of being a mum. So then I was like, okay, yeah, refocus. And then we had 2 miscarriages, one after another. And I just remember just being like, what have I done? Like, at what, like, why is this one thing after another, after another, after another? But then, like you say, I have gotten through that. I have gotten to this point, and I do still struggle a lot, and I do still wonder why and things like this. But like you say, there is a level of resilience there to just not give up. There was a lot of people in between the miscarriages saying, just wait. Like, for example, because I know my family laugh at this because I'm very stubborn, and it comes from being an athlete. I don't know if you know, but, and I know it's just recently changed, thankfully, but when you have a miscarriage, you have to have, through the NHS, you have to have 3 miscarriages before they even investigate it, which to me is completely inhumane and was horrendous. So we had 2, and at that point I said, I'm not having a third one. Like, I'm gonna sort this, and I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna do everything to find out what's going on, because I'm not just being told it's one of them things. And I think everyone around me was like pulling their hair out with me, like, it just happens. And I knew it didn't. And that determination and that resilience inside of me, and that just have to keep going, which I think cycling gave me, and those 2 years, really 2 hard 2 years gave me, was the fact that I found out myself, pushed and pushed and pushed for tests. I found out I had a thyroid problem, which is really high in causing miscarriages. Got medication for that. Thankfully, fell pregnant with Augie, and she's here now. And I know, and that sounds awful because that's not as easy for everyone at all. There's some people just can't have children, and that's heartbreaking, and there isn't a reason for everyone. I completely understand that, but the fact that I didn't give up, and that when I wanted to give up, I didn't give up, I think that's what I've taken from cycling.
Yeah, absolutely. That's,
And that's what I put in.
yeah. And I guess, do you think the world of social media that we're all invested in, whether we like it or not, do you think that for topics such as miscarriage, which is a bit more discussed online now, is it still like I mean, it's going to be horrible and traumatic to go through, like, no matter what's going on in social media, but is there like a support that people have now?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think 100% it's being talked about a lot more. I'm quite open in what I've gone through, because, and I hope sometimes it doesn't come across as a, like, it's just negative things that I have to say, because it's really not. I'm so lucky for who I have around me and my day-to-day life. I'm lucky, and I'm lucky that I could even figure that out and have Augie, and I understand how lucky I am. So I just want to be as open as I possibly can with everybody through my platform, how big or how small that is, because I know that it has helped a couple of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt so, so lonely when I had them miscarriages. I thought there was something really wrong with me, and I searched everywhere online, and there were podcasts that I listened to and got me through, and obviously there's like charities and everything to help everyone. But actually, when I opened up about it and spoke to my family, everyone would go, oh yeah, that happened to me. Pretty much every woman I've spoken to, just in general conversation, has said, oh yeah, that happened to me. So then I think it is being talked about more, but I think nowhere near as much as it is normal,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, we all wanna hide the painful times and not expose them because it makes us feel vulnerable. But then we feel more vulnerable because we don't have that community of going through those really rock bottom times. Whatever they may be in everyone's life, it'll be different. But community is so important to get us through.
Yeah, yeah, and I had, I think sometimes my way of dealing with things is, like, not through humor, but, like, seeing, like, a lighter side towards it. So, like, when there was podcasts, that they were talking about, like, silly things that go through your head through these times, and, like, you can share it and be like, "Oh, we are all the same," like, can kind of laugh at it in that sense, in that we're not alone, and these thoughts that pop into our head, they are here, and, like, we can acknowledge them and we can laugh at them together. Um, like, I had a really horrible experience, the second miscarriage, of having to go back into hospital for bloods, and they took me onto the ward full of heavily pregnant women that were about to give birth. And I
Mm,
remember being sat on that ward waiting for these bloods, and I was just in floods of tears, but just looking down because I thought, well, all of these wonderful women are just about to give birth and they're so happy. And the nurse came out to me and she said, "Oh, you okay?" And I thought, of course I'm not okay. Like, and to me, that was like, you're a woman as well. Why are we, why is this happening? Why am I being put in this position with lots of other women? And I came away from that and I thought, God, that was horrible. And really felt like I really hope that never happens to anyone else. And the amount of stories online I've found, or people have responded to me saying, yeah, this happened to me, yeah, this happened to me. And then now, like, everything's starting to change around, there is help now. You don't have to have 3 miscarriages. That law's been changed. I think is it Melanie Class who's changed that? And I think me telling that story spoke to other women and highlighted that story, and then it just opens up so many more doors. So yeah, I do think that it is being spoken about more online, and that is helping, but nowhere near as
yeah,
how much it should.
so true. Yeah, that's a wild situation that you were put in, and I can't imagine how you got through that. That's horrendous.
It's just the balance of, like, you don't want to be so negative, because on the flip side of that, I met so many incredible nurses that are just lovely, and, like, yeah, and I don't want to be, oh, all this happened, because it is a really horrible situation. But on the other hand, there are so many lovely NHS nurses that are so working so hard, and you
Mhm.
want to really acknowledge them as well, because they get you through things like that as well.
So being an athlete, you will have known your body inside and out, what it's capable of, how it feels. How has your body changed post baby?
It's changed a lot. I honestly can't even remember, like, sometimes I think, so I've gotten back into running. I always wanted to run when I was cycling, but because of, like, injury and because it's so high impact, we kind of stay clear of it. So yeah, I've started running again now, and that's been incredible because I miss exercise so much. And running, for example, you could go out for a half an hour run and really feel tired after, but you couldn't really go out for half an hour ride.
It's so
So
efficient. Running
I've
is
gone
so
back.
efficient. It's so good.
Yeah, yesterday I did the first ever park run, and for example, it was like 22 minutes, and that's when I finished and I was exhausted. I felt so good. I felt really good. And it was 9:30 and I'd done it, and I was like, wow, imagine just going out for like a 20-minute bike ride. You would never, like, you just literally get past a few traffic lights. But now I think, because I'm uploading my runs through Garmin Connect, and the other day I was just flicking through and I saw um when I stopped cycling, because I was really fit still, and I didn't know what to do. So I just thought, I'm just gonna go and I got into like adventure riding, bike packing, and I did an A to B. So I rode Manchester to Bristol, and then stayed over a night in Bristol to London, and then I got the train back. And I was looking through this guide, and I'm looking at my 5K runs, being so chuffed with my 5K runs. And then I'm like looking up, and I was like, what a 300-kilometer ride. And I was like, wow, like the fitness difference here is ridiculous. But like, I'm getting back there, and I don't think I ever will get back to the stage where I do like 500K on a bike in 2 days. I think that's a bit ridiculous. But it's actually really surprising how fast fitness can come back. And a few women have messaged me since I've been posting about my running, asking what I did through pregnancy to keep fit. I did nothing. And when I say nothing, nothing. Like, I did a couple of walks to walk the dog, bearing in mind we have a sausage dog, so them walks are not fun. And I was extremely heavy. And I ate everything I wanted. It was incredible. And I think just afterwards, I think it just like, I don't know, I was just sick of being a bit of a slob for 9 months. And now I've got some new motivation, and I'm getting back. And at first it was horrendous. I hated it. I would come back and I would be like, my face was all red and blotchy, and I was sweating everywhere. I looked like a complete mess. And now I'm 6 months in, and I've gone to a park run where I'm actually trying to race, and I've got that competitive back and feeling fit again. And it's just actually, it's amazed me what our bodies can do, and how I'm nowhere near as fit, don't get me wrong, but like I'm to a fitness level where I'm actually really happy with.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's changed completely also because I'm feeding a baby from my boobs.
I was talking to one of my friends who she now has 2 little kids. And then I'm like, how did you do that? Like, you literally gave birth. She was like, it's the most empowering thing I've ever done. And then she had the second baby. She said the exact same thing. And I'm like, wow. And do you feel
Yeah,
like that's like the most
yeah.
empowering thing of all the things you've done, all the medals you've won? I bet you're just like, yeah, but my body made a human.
It's insane. And I look at Augie, like every single day I do this. I look at her and I think, how the hell were you in my belly 6 months ago? Like, how did my body make you?
Wild. It's actually wild.
Like, it's incredible. And like, yeah, just the biggest thing I've ever achieved. But that's actually probably one point that I would make, in that before going through everything, I would have said growing up, oh yeah, I'm gonna have 2 kids or 3 kids. But the one thing this has taught me is I'm just so incredibly grateful for my body being able to make Augie. I'm so incredibly grateful that she's here, she's healthy, I'm healthy, and to be honest, like, Augie is everything that I've ever wanted. And now I have no other, right now, like, I'd just be so happy with just Augie. And like, that's just, my perspective has just completely changed.
So, with your partner being a professional cyclist, is that quite
Yeah.
painful? Like him still cycling and you not cycling while trying to get over it and redefine your life, recreate your life?
Yeah. And I'd be lying to say that, yeah, it is really hard. But in saying that, I don't find it hard when he has to go out and do 5 or 6 hours and it's a storm outside.
Bye, honey. Have a good
But
time.
go and enjoy that. Definitely racing, like, well, it's like trying to get not forget, but try and move on from a life that you loved so much, like the training aspect, the traveling, meeting new people, achieving things. But then seeing it is really hard. And obviously, Owain went to the Olympics and won. And it's not a competition at all. But it's like, it's just, it's hard to watch racing, but it's not hard to support Owain. It's really not. And I just have every amount of respect for him. And actually, he does something that I've never even tried to do, like the Tour de France. So, like, as such, I feel as though track and road are just different sports. And I think that makes it a little bit easier. And because he's been on the track and I've been on the track, it's actually really nice to talk about memories that we've had. We joke about the first time we actually met each other, but we didn't speak or anything. We met at World Championships. I think this will have literally been like 2015. And I was a junior and he was under 23. And there's a picture of us. He's riding in front of me. We're just out for a spin. And we didn't say hello. We didn't nothing. But we were on GB, we were at the same World Championships, and now we have a child together.
So funny looking back.
And just
Like,
like
wow.
things like that. Yeah, like who can say that? Like it's that's special, and cycling gives him so much. It's lovely. It's lovely to watch him do that. And as much as it is hard, and sometimes I think, oh, I wish I could go and do that. I wish I could be going on a December training camp. I'm very, very, very proud of what he does.
I actually love how you put that it's hard to watch, but it's really easy to support him. I think that's really eloquently put.
Yeah.
Do you still cycle?
No.
No, just not interested.
I'm still really competitive. That has not gone anywhere. And I don't think yet I could get on a bike and be satisfied with the fitness level I have. Which is so silly because like you can go and enjoy a bike ride. Lots of people do, but I don't think that I could.
Yeah, that's fair, and it's a very honest answer.
Yeah, I mean, it shows literally this park run we went to. It made Owen laugh because he was watching with Augie on the side, and it's literally a park run. It was a storm as well, and we set off, and I come through the first lap with the men and at the front, and it came through on my watch, and it was like just under 4 minutes for the first K. I've never ran that fast in my life. And I looked down and I just thought, oh my god, like why is it like why can I not just run at what my fitness is? Like why do I have to be like trying to keep up with these men who are runners? And let me tell you, the splits went rocking down. But like it just made Owen laugh to see me come through. Just be like, it's not gone anywhere.
She's back.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So if someone is going through a time when they're kind of lost, they're trying to find their new identity, set new goals, what advice would you give them?
I'm still doing that. So the advice that I am living with at the minute is I'm trying not to listen to noise around me. I think when you are quite lost, you're quite vulnerable, and I have been anyway. So a lot of advice that comes my way, I jump on it and I think, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do this. I'll do that because so and so said this. I think you understand more about yourself than you'll ever give yourself respect for. I think you know deep down who you are. You know deep down what you like and you know what you don't like. So I think to just concentrate on that and to try loads of things. Like I've tried so many careers since I stopped cycling. Like I've been making occasion cakes. I did a nail course. I was doing nails from home. Now I'm halfway through doing a PT course because I'd really like to go down that. I'm learning that jobs away from sport is not for me. I'm actually learning that I love my sport and I love being fit, and I can't wait to be a PT and do that. That's what I'm learning now. But I think just trust yourself and try loads of things. And everybody, I feel as though everyone would roll their eyes when I'd say that I'm doing something new, or they'd think, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. But I hold my hands up, I haven't got a clue. I'm just trying everything until something feels makes me feel the way cycling did.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's painful, do you know? Sometimes you try something, it doesn't work. You've got to pick yourself up, try something else. And everyone does it. And a lot of people don't talk about the fact that they did that or they did that. But the truth is, you got to knock on all the doors and see what opens and see what you like. That's so, like, such good advice. What actually makes you feel good?
Yeah, and actually, I had such a good conversation with some of our friends. Both friends have really successful careers. They're like living in London, have gone to uni, studied really hard to do what they want to do, high up in their jobs. And I had such an honest conversation with them when I was kind of a bit down, thinking, I don't know what I want to do. And for me, it's really important that I have a career next because I need that for me. So yeah, I'm going through all of these things. And they kind of said, they turned around to me and said, well, I feel the same. And I said, well, what do you mean you feel the same? You're so highly qualified. You have this really incredible career. And they'll say, oh yeah, but like I don't enjoy it every day. Like I definitely think, oh, what could I do? I don't know. Like where can I go from this? Or like, do I want to do something different? And I think it's just recognizing like it's okay to not know completely all the time what you want to do. It's okay to change. And even like the most successful people think that.
Yeah, exactly. And times have changed so much. I think talking to older people, sometimes they're like, oh, but you get a job and then you work like your whole life. And even like talking to like people our parents' age, do you know, they're like, what, you're doing something else now? And that's very much the culture now. It's different. You can do different things. You can work online, you can work from home, and it's all very new. And as people in our 20s, we're really trying to navigate that because there aren't any rules, which is amazing because there's so many opportunities. But it's also overwhelming and it's hard to figure out what the path that we want to take is.
And you know how I said to not listen to the noise around you? I think it is like you've literally hit the nail on the head with that. That like this is so new. The way we're living now is so new, and there are so many opportunities that, like, for example, my parents don't know about. And when my mum would say, "Oh, I'd love to get a new job," because my parents have had their jobs throughout. Like you say, you get a job and then that's what you do for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just it must be really unnerving for them to sit back as well and just see this and like see us chop and change all the time and then think, oh God, what's she doing? Like just
Just
stick to
pick
something. Like
something.
it must, yeah. Mine are so extreme, like cake making, PT. Like they couldn't be further apart. So I can understand sometimes when people are like just like fine, like what? And like I get that, but I'm also like that. And like you say, just trying to navigate it and work out the opportunities. Like people growing up now can want to be YouTubers and like influencers, and like that's incredible because that's just a full new career that was never existed before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. So, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
So I would say that you are you are more than enough as you before you have a career, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell myself not to rely on success from a career to feel good. If I could go back and teach myself one thing, it would be that.
It's a good piece of advice. Comes from within, the success. Like your daughter is going to have some mega genes if both of her parents are that like endurance based athletes. If she was like to you, I want to become professional cyclist or an athlete generally, how would you feel?
Ah, I want to wrap her up in bubble wrap and just put her on the sofa and you just sit there. Oh, she can do whatever she wants to do, whatever she wants to do. From when she goes to school, I'd love her to just try everything, just
Mhm.
absolutely everything, every sport. I really hope she loves sport, not even to be an athlete, just to enjoy sport. And if she really wants to be a cyclist, she can. But I would prefer if she could choose a sport where it wasn't so expensive to buy all the equipment.
So maybe not a Formula One driver either then.
But as well, cycling's just so dangerous. And I
Mm.
think it's getting worse on the roads.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
But she can be whatever she wants to be. If she wants to be a cyclist, fine.
Incredible. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on today and talking us through that. Thank you for being open as well. And I feel like there's a lot of things we've covered that are quite good for people who are feeling a bit lost, because we all feel lost. And if you're listening to this and feeling a bit alone, like, we've all been there, you know, and we're all in it together. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. And if people want to find you online, follow you, where should they go?
So Instagram is where I mostly am. And I'm not sure my Instagram. I've already forgotten it since the end of this call, but we can link that one.
I'll link it below.
Just to say though that like if anybody listens to this and wants to talk about it, like I don't share so much because I don't want to come across as negative all the time or too positive. It's really hard to get the right balance. But if anybody wants to speak about anything, then I always will, because I think that just opens up so many conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on and joining the episode.
No problem. Thank you for having me.